It is a strange human tendency, is it not? This persistent effort to translate ourselves for those who have no desire to learn our language. Not because they are incapable of hearing our words, but because they are listening to an entirely different soundtrack in their own minds. And here you are, standing on the shore, attempting to describe the vastness of your ocean to someone who is convinced they are in a desert. It is a depletion of the spirit, this constant need to justify, to clarify, to make oneself understood. But what if I were to tell you that the very act of explaining your reality to certain people is akin to trying to paint a sunset for someone who insists on keeping their eyes closed? We have been led to believe that communication is the universal solvent, that if we could only find the right sequence of words, the perfect articulation, then, surely, understanding would blossom. But the truth is far more nuanced than that. Some individuals are so deeply ensnared in the architecture of their own mental world, so mesmerized by their personal interpretations of reality, that your words become little more than ambient sound. And the more ardently you try to break through, the more of your life force you lose. It is like whispering secrets to a storm. The sound is made, but it is immediately carried away, never reaching its intended destination. So, permit me to ask you this: how much of your precious life have you expended trying to persuade those who were never going to be persuaded? How many times have you rearticulated, recontextualized, and exhausted yourself, all in the hope that this time, surely, this time, they will finally see? And what was the result? They reframed your words to fit their narrative. They heard only what confirmed their existing beliefs. They cast you as the antagonist in a play they had already written, no matter how carefully you delivered your lines. This is not a coincidence. This is not a failure of your ability to communicate. This is a collision between two entirely different states of being. Now, before we proceed, let us be precise. I am not speaking of healthy debate or of individuals who genuinely wish to understand you, but happen to see the world through a different lens. I am speaking of something else entirely. I am speaking of people who are living within a kind of perceptual fortress, a self-constructed reality of beliefs and illusions so solid that nothing you say can breach its walls. And the reason nothing penetrates is because their primary interest is not in truth, it is in the preservation of their own rightness. They are invested in protecting their version of reality, even if that version bears no resemblance to what is actually taking place. The moment you truly grasp this, everything changes. You cease to take it personally. You stop believing there is something deficient in your words. You realize that the problem was never your explanation. The problem is that you are speaking to someone who has already made a judgment about what you mean, who you are, and what you represent. And no volume of explanation will ever alter that preconceived verdict. It is like trying to reason with a character in a dream. The dream does not care for your logic. It operates according to its own internal, unchangeable rules. Let me tell you what occurs when you attempt to explain yourself to someone who is trapped in an illusion. First, you squander your energy. And I do not mean a small amount of energy. I am referring to the kind of deep, soul-level exhaustion that comes from participating in an endeavor that was doomed from its inception. You pour out your very essence in an attempt to be understood, and what do you receive in return? More confusion, more accusations, more questions. It is a self-perpetuating loop that has no end, because the other person is not seeking understanding. They are seeking to maintain their own narrative. And you, my friend, are merely a figure in their story, a figure whose lines they have already written. The ancient wisdom traditions understood this principle well. They knew that not everyone is prepared to hear the truth. Not everyone can handle it. Some people need their illusions. They are a form of psychic survival. To take away their illusions would be to cause them to crumble. And so they will defend those illusions with every fiber of their being. They will warp your words. They will attack your character. And if you are still trying to explain yourself to them, you are, in effect, helping them to maintain the very illusion that traps them. Because every time you engage, you give them something to push against. You give them a reason to fortify their position. There is a story I once heard about a woman who spent her entire life trying to convince her brother that a river near their home flowed south. The brother insisted it flowed north. So, the woman brought maps, geographical surveys, and scientific data. She even brought other villagers to confirm that, yes, the river undeniably flows south. But the brother would not be moved. North, he insisted. It flows north, yeah. And one day, depleted and defeated, the woman gave up. She stopped trying to convince him. She stopped speaking of the river altogether. And, do you know what happened? The brother became enraged, because without the argument, without the conflict, he was forced to confront something terrifying, the possibility that he was, and had always been, wrong. This is what happens when you cease to explain yourself to people who are trapped in their illusions. They grow angry. They escalate. They accuse you of abandoning them, of being cold, of no longer caring. But here is the secret. Their anger has nothing to do with you. It is about them. It is about the fact that your silence creates a space in which they are forced to look at themselves. And looking at oneself after living in a self-constructed reality is one of the most uncomfortable experiences a person can have. So, they would rather you keep talking, keep explaining, keep playing your designated role in their drama, because as long as you are engaged, they do not have to face the truth. But you are under no obligation to participate in that play any longer. You can step back. You can be quiet. You can allow them to have their version of reality without feeling a compulsion to correct it. This is not a sign of indifference. It is a sign of profound wisdom. It is the understanding that some battles are not yours to fight. Now, here is where it becomes truly interesting. When you stop explaining yourself, something fundamental shifts within you. You begin to be a guardian of your own energy. You begin to protect what is sacred, your peace, your clarity, your sense of self. These are precious assets, and when you offer them in conversations with people who cannot receive them, you are squandering a sacred treasure. You are offering a priceless gift to hands that are not prepared to hold it. And so, they drop it. They trample it. They use it against you. Reflect for a moment on recent dialogues you have had, the ones that left you feeling depleted, misconstrued, and frustrated. Now, ask yourself, was the other party genuinely seeking to comprehend your world, or were they simply reloading their own arguments while you spoke? Were they trying to understand your perspective, or were they merely defending their own? If it is the latter, then you were explaining yourself to someone who was never going to hear you. And the energy you expended is an energy you will never get back. There is a certain kind of personality that thrives on this dynamic. They love to pull you into endless cycles of explanation because it gives them a sense of control. The more you explain, the more ammunition they have. They will collect your words like stones, only to hurl them back at you in ways you never intended. They will say, "But you said this," when you said nothing of the sort. Your patience is interpreted as a lack of conviction. Your kindness is reframed as a covert strategy. And no matter what you do, no matter how clearly you speak, they will find a way to misunderstand you, because to understand you would require them to change. And for many, change is terrifying. What then is the solution? You withdraw. You cease the explanations. You stop the defense. You stop trying to make them see, because the truth is, they already see. They just do not like what they see. And that is not your problem. Your problem has been that you have taken responsibility for their perception. You have been acting as if their misunderstanding is your failure. But it is not. Their misunderstanding is their choice. Let me tell you what happens when you embrace this quietude. First, you reclaim your sovereignty. When you stop offering explanations, you stop giving away your authority. You stop behaving as though you require their approval, their validation, or their understanding. You simply exist, and there is something incredibly powerful in that. It is the power of a person who no longer needs to defend their own existence. The power of someone who knows their worth is not determined by whether others can perceive it. Second, you create a sacred void, a space for the truth to emerge on its own, a space for the other person to sit with their own thoughts without the constant input of your voice, a space for God or the universe or whatever you choose to call that deeper intelligence to do its work. When you are always talking, always explaining, you fill all the available space. But when you are silent, something else has the opportunity to enter, and often that something else is far more effective than anything you could have ever said. Third, you begin to truly discern. You begin to see who is genuinely interested in understanding you and who is simply interested in the drama. The people who truly care will accept your silence with grace. They will give you space. They will trust that you have your reasons. But the people who are trapped in their own illusions will panic. They will demand explanations. They will accuse you of being secretive, distant, and cold. And in reaction, they will reveal precisely why you were right to stop explaining in the first place. Now, let us be clear about what this quietude is not. It is not avoidance. It is not running away from difficult conversations or refusing to communicate when communication is genuinely needed. This quietude is the highest form of discernment. It is knowing when words will be of service and when they will only make matters worse. It is recognizing that some people are not ready for your truth, and that is perfectly all right. You do not need everyone to be ready. You just need to be wise enough not to waste your most precious gifts on those who cannot appreciate them. This quietude is also not a punishment. It is not a passive-aggressive way of getting back at someone or making them feel bad. It is simply a boundary, a way of saying, I will not participate in this particular dance anymore. Because the dance of endless explanation is utterly exhausting. It keeps you small. It keeps you stuck. And it keeps the other person stuck too, because they never have to face their own illusions as long as you are there to argue with them. Here is the thing about illusion. It is comfortable. It is familiar. People build entire identities around their illusions. They construct elaborate mental frameworks to support them. And when you come along with your truth, your clarity, your different perspective, you are threatening the entire structure. You are asking them to tear down what they have spent years building. And most people will not do that. They will defend their illusion with everything they have. They will fight you. They will blame you. They will vilify you. Anything to keep their world intact. And you know what? That is their right. They have every right to live in whatever reality they choose. But you have a right too. You have the right to stop exhausting yourself trying to change their mind. You have the right to walk away from conversations that go nowhere. You have the right to protect your energy, your peace, and your sanity. And you exercise that right through a quiet dignity, through the simple, powerful act of not engaging. There is an ancient piece of wisdom that goes something like this: never debate with a person who is in love with their own opinion, for onlookers may not be able to tell the difference. But I would take it a step further. Never explain yourself to someone who has already decided who you are, because no explanation will ever change their mind. They have made their judgment. They have written their story, and you are wasting your breath trying to edit it. Instead, reserve your words for those who are prepared to hear them. Reserve your energy for relationships that actually nourish you. Reserve your truth for people who are hungry for it, because there are people out there who will understand you without lengthy explanations. There are people who will see you clearly without you having to perform, or prove, or justify. And those are the people who are worthy of your time. But what about the others? What about the people trapped in their illusions who continue to demand your attention, your explanations, your defense? Let them go, not with anger or resentment, but with compassion. Let them have their illusion. Let them believe whatever they need to believe, and trust that if they are meant to awaken, they will. But it will not be because you convinced them. It will be because life itself has taught them, and life is a far better teacher than you could ever be. So, here is what I am asking you to do. The next time someone demands an explanation from you, someone who has already decided what you are, what you meant, and what you did, pause. Take a breath, and ask yourself, will this explanation actually be of service? Or will it just provide them with more material to misinterpret? If it is the latter, remain silent. Let them sit with their own assumptions. Let them fill in the blanks however they wish, because their interpretation says far more about them than it does about you. And in that silence, you will find something extraordinary. You will find yourself, not the version of yourself that bends and twists to be understood, not the version that exhausts itself trying to please everyone, but the real you, the you that exists regardless of whether anyone understands or not, the you that does not need validation because it knows its own truth. And that version of you is far more powerful than any explanation you could ever give. Stop explaining yourself to people who are trapped in illusion, not because you are giving up on them, not because you do not care, but because you finally understand that some people are simply not ready to see, and that is okay. Let them have their blindness. Let them have their confusion. Let them have their version of you. Because the real you, the one that knows, the one that sees, the one that simply is, does not need their approval. Your peace is more valuable than their understanding. Your energy is more precious than their acceptance. Your truth is more important than their opinion. Remember that. Hold on to that. And the next time you feel that familiar urge to explain, to defend, to justify, just stop. Be still. Be quiet. Be free. Because this kind of silence, my friend, is not an absence of an answer. It is the answer itself.